Hello and welcome to Luke and Ellie's podcast. As you can see, there is no Luke. It's just me, and today's topic is going to be a little bit more serious than usual. That topic is racism, specifically systemic racism, which limits people of color from reaching their full potential in social, political, and economic spheres. And this racism stems from the idea of a hierarchy of human value, which has some really painful effects. To has some really horrible impacts to those who have been affected by that ideology, and we recognize that most of the constitutions are built on this hierarchy of human value. You know, and there have been some remarkable things in the journey to, which I believe is an ongoing journey of healing from those ideas of racism. You know, the United States of America's Declaration of Independence, where it states that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they all have the same opportunities at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let me stick to my notes here. But yeah, so I believe that systemic racism specifically is a violation of Act 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which in Article 2 states that everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitations of sovereignty. So, that basically states that everyone is equally entitled to the human rights without distinction of specifically race in this case. With that said, there has been a history of where people of color have not had equal opportunities, and where that changes to some significant events, in the history of human rights, particularly to the rights of colored people, is the civil rights movement that happened in the 1960s, which was led by Martin Luther King, who was an African American Baptist minister, and his activism was marked by peaceful protest. So Dr. King maintained nonviolence and nonviolent philosophy and a non-separatist non-violent, non-separatist philosophy, which was quite different from certain other leaders at the time. For example, Malcolm X, he was very much for armed self-defense, and the idea, the separatist ideology, which meant that all white people were seen as bad, and there was a lot of hatred towards all white people from that ideology. But Martin Luther rejected this, saying that both these ideas of violence and separation, by saying we must not allow creative protest to degenerate into physical violence, and that many white brothers have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. He said this in his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Yeah, and I guess what influenced his philosophy was his faith, and he saw this particular nonviolence and peaceful approach lived out in another pretty famous activist, Gandhi, and Martin Luther said that Gandhi gave him the method for social reform that he had been looking for, and so at the time that the civil rights movement blossomed, there was a lot of segregation, and this segregation was due to the Jim Crow laws, which didn't allow African Americans to, for example, drink water at the same place, and that sort of thing. And so in throughout the civil rights movement in the 60s, there was obviously Martin Luther's famous "I Have a Dream" speech, in which he said, "I have a dream that America would rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." He also said, "I have a dream that one day, on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood." So this was very, very significant moment in history, and the movement brought about great change. And for example, the change that is a change such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which made discrimination in public places and business illegal. It also made it possible for government to force public schools to end segregation. There was also the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which allowed African Americans to vote, and it also helped alleviate the poverty that they were in. So, in closing, the civil rights movement was a giant leap in reversing the effects of systemic racism, individual and systemic racism. And this is an ongoing process of reversing the damages done by the ideology of hierarchy of human value. And so my hope is that this that you are now more aware of this issue, and now more inclined to, it's my sister, inclined to support organizations that are working to reverse the harm done by individual and systemic racism. And below the link, I have placed some helpful resources. In the link, in the description, I've placed some helpful resources to some helpful resources to help you figure out what this is and kind of get your mind around racism and its effects. And goodbye for now.